my daughter-in-law, stood in the doorway while I was sweeping. Then she clapped her hands at me like I was a dog and said with a smile, "You missed a spot." My son was right there, but he just looked away. I didn't say a word. Not because I was scared or weak, but because deep down, I knew she was a walking red flag. My son had married her without really seeing who she was, so I kept quiet. At least, I didn't till she finally went too far. The day Rachel moved in, she didn't ask. She just walked in with my son, Adam, dragging her suitcase behind her like she already owned the place. "Just for a few weeks, Mom," Adam said with a tight smile. Rachel kissed him on the cheek and looked around my living room like she was judging it. "It's cozy," she said, and somehow, it sounded like an insult. That very night, she rearranged my spice rack without asking. The next morning, she was already in the kitchen before I even woke up, blasting music, making avocado toast, and leaving a mess behind. I didn't say anything. I figured she was just getting used to things, but by the second week, she said something in front of Adam that hit me like a slap. "Your mom should get help. Organizing it's kind of depressing." In here, I was standing right there, just 2 feet away. Adam didn't defend me. He just nodded. That was the first time I truly felt how deep this was going to go. Rachel wasn't stupid. She knew how to act sweet, with Adam's soft voice, always touching his arm, laughing at nothing. But with me, she was cold, sharp, fake nice. When Adam walked in the room, I noticed it early on, but I kept my mouth shut because I knew what would happen. If I spoke up, I'd be made out to be the jealous, bitter mother. She was clever like that. She didn't hurt with her hands. She hurt with her words, her looks, her control. Slowly, things got worse. She started treating me like a maid. She'd ask me to take out the trash, criticize how I cleaned, complain about my cooking too oily, she'd say, while pushing the plate away. Once, she left her towel on the floor after a shower and just walked off. I picked it up, thinking I was helping. Big mistake. After that, she stopped pretending to help around the house at all. "She's retired," Rachel told Adam. "She has the time." And he didn't say a word. Then one Friday night, after a couple of drinks, Rachel got bold. I was setting the table and she snapped, "Can you stop hovering?" I looked her in the eye and said, "It's my house." And she shot back without blinking. Not for long. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I checked the drawer in my bedroom where I kept my important documents. The property deed was gone. I didn't freak out. I waited. 4 days later, I walked into the living room and saw her sitting at my desk. She jumped when she saw me, said she was looking up home decor ideas. But I saw the open tabs on her laptop, property tax records, joint ownership laws. I didn't say anything. I just turned around, walked to my room, and locked the door. That night, I texted my lawyer. By the 3rd week it was clear Rachel wasn't just settling in, she was claiming territory. She treated every room like it belonged to her, and treated me like some old housekeeper she had to tolerate. She made comments about how I folded towels, then redid them loudly to make a point. She moved things around in my kitchen, labeled containers like I didn't know what flour looked like. She even once told me, "You should keep the cumin and chili powder separate. It's confusing." Then she started giving me chores. "Can you change the sheets? Adam has allergies. Could you vacuum the guest room before Friday? Oh, and wipe down the fridge. I'm super sensitive to smells." She said it all in a cheerful tone, like it was cute. It wasn't. I didn't argue. I just did it. Not because I was scared, but because I knew if I pushed back, she'd twist it. She always did. She wasn't looking for a fight. She wanted control. And Adam, my sweet, level-headed boy, he didn't see it. Or maybe he did, but love made him blind. Whenever Rachel snapped, he'd say, "She's just stressed," or "She's trying to help," or "She's still adjusting." I started to notice how she managed his moods. If he seemed happy, she'd pull away and act cold. If he was distant, she'd cry and say she felt unloved. And if I ever tried to talk to him alone, she'd show up like clockwork. Once, I waited until she left for a walk and sat down with Adam. I said, "Are you okay? You don't seem like yourself." He looked confused, like he wanted to answer honestly but didn't know how. Then right on Karacha walked in, laughing loudly on her phone, and sat down beside him. End of conversation. One evening, I was walking past the laundry room when I heard Rachel talking on the phone. She was whispering, but one line came through, clear as day. "It's not about love, it's about access. His mom still has the papers, But once that changes, we're set. I stopped in my tracks. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Access. That was the word she used. Like Adam was a password, and I was a locked door standing in her way. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't confront her. I made copies of all my important documents and hid the originals somewhere she'd never think to look. At the bottom of an old mop bucket in the garage, under a pile of dusty towels. The next morning, Rachel came into the kitchen, all casual. "Hey, do you know where the deed papers are? I think we should apply for a joint property tax credit." I smiled and said, "That's not necessary." For a split second, her face heightened like she'd bitten into something sour. Then she laughed and said, "Oh, okay. Just thought it might help us all." That's when I knew she wasn't going to stop. She'd just find another way. And she did. That Friday night, Adam came home tired from work and went straight to take a shower. Rachel followed me into the kitchen and leaned on the counter like we were old friends. "You know," she said, "you're lucky I let you stay here. Most women would want their own space after getting married." I looked straight at her and said, "This is my house." She shrugged, "For now," and walked off. I didn't react. Not because I wasn't angry, I was, but because I knew that's what she wanted, a fight, something she could twist and use against me. That's how she played. The next morning, while I swept the floor, she stood in the doorway and clapped her hands at me, just 2 quick smacks, sharp and rude, like she was calling a dog. "You missed a spot," she said. Adam was right there. He looked at me, then looked away. He didn't say a word. That was it. That was the moment. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat down at my computer, opened my email, and messaged my lawyer. I was done waiting. The next week, Rachel changed her approach. She stopped with the jabs and started playing it smart, more polite, more careful, but sharper. I noticed how she dropped little hints around Adam, talking about bills, about joint accounts, about how hard it was to manage money as a new wife. Then she shifted toward the house. One morning over breakfast, she said to Adam, "Have you ever looked into how home equity works?" I read something interesting. I didn't respond. I just kept eating. When I stayed quiet, she added, "It's just smarter when both spouses have property rights for tax stuff, you know." Adam nodded, didn't say much. Then she turned to me and said sweetly, "Maybe you should consider adding Adam to the deed. It's just cleaner that way, safer." I looked her dead in the eye. "It's already clean." Her smile faltered. For half a second, just a flick of but I saw it. 2 days later, I got a call from my bank. Someone had tried to request a copy of my mortgage file. The bank flagged it because the name didn't match. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't Adam's. It was Rachel's. I thanked them calmly and hung up. I didn't confront her. I waited. That evening, she sat on the couch, browsing house listings on her phone. "We should do something modern with the kitchen," she told Adam. "Open it up. If it's ours, we should invest." That word again, knows, like if she said it enough, it would come true. Adam looked unsure. He glanced at me. I just stood up and left the room. Later that night, I saw her sneak into the office with her laptop. I pretended to go to bed, then quietly came back down the hallway and watched from the shadows. She was copying files from my computer onto a flash drive. My name was right there on the screen. I snapped a photo from behind her reflection in the monitor, clear as day. She didn't know I saw. I saved the photo. Then, I started backing up everything: texts, emails, documents. I even installed a tiny security camera over the office door. Nothing illegal, just ... protection. But Rachel, she kept pushing. She started inviting friends over without even asking. One night, she threw a wine party in my own living room. I served snacks like a waitress, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to hear what she said when she forgot I was there. And sure enough, in the kitchen, I heard her whisper, "Honestly, I'm just being patient. Once the paperwork shifts, we'll be out of here. I've got plans." Later that night, I was looking for something in Adam's drawer and found the original deed shoved into a folder marked receipts. Not even hidden, just tossed there like it didn't matter. There was a faint coffee stain on the corner. I took it and locked it in my room. The next day, Rachel handed me a glass of juice, smiling wide. "You seem tired lately," she said. "Maybe you should think about downsizing." I didn't answer. But that night, I had waited long enough. Rachel wasn't just rude or sneaky anymore. She was dangerous. She was calculating every move. and if I didn't do something, she'd take everything I'd built, piece by piece. That Friday, I met with my lawyer. I laid it all out, every detail. I showed him the photo I'd taken, the bank calls, the paperwork. He looked at me and said, "You waited longer than most would, but yes, there's enough." I left his office with one plan and one sealed envelope. Rachel would never see it coming. The thing about Rachel was, she didn't just twist the truth, she rewrote it, slowly, quietly. At first it was little comments when Adam wasn't really listening. "Your mom seems overwhelmed lately. I think she's forgetting things. I'm starting to worry about her mental state." And then she stopped hiding it. One night after dinner, Adam came to me, looking uncertain. He said, "Rachel thinks you might be struggling with paranoia." I looked at him. "Paranoia?" He nodded, slowly. "She said, you've been checking her emails, and that you accused her of stealing." I didn't argue, not because it wasn't true. I had been watching her, but because I understood what she was doing. She was setting the stage, flipping the story. If I fought back, I'd look unstable. If I stayed quiet, she'd take more. That was the trap. And Rachel, she was smart. Adam wasn't stupid, but he was tired. He worked long days and came home to her games. I think he just wanted peace, even if it meant looking away from the truth. The next morning, Rachel sat across from me at breakfast, smiling sweetly. "You really should get checked for memory loss. No shame in it. Women your age." "Well, it happens." I stared at her. "I'm fine." She smiled again. "Just trying to help." She told her friends I was controlling, told neighbors I was moody, even told our family friend Lorraine that I'd started wandering into rooms and forgetting why. I only found out because Lorraine called me, worried. That same week, I found my spice rack messed up again. I had just fixed it the day before. She was doing it on purpose, now moving things just to make me look confused. One day, I caught her in the act, hand halfway to the cumin jar. She froze when she saw me, then slowly twisted it sideways and walked off. Not a word, just the game. And Adam. He was slipping away. He made less eye contact, spoke with a different tone. One night I asked, "What would you like for dinner?" And he snapped, "You always ask that. Just make something." He'd never spoken to me like that, not once in his life. I realized then I wasn't just losing my home, I was losing my son. She wasn't just taking up space in his life, she was cutting me out of it, piece by piece. The final straw came one evening when I found a pile of torn-up papers in the kitchen trash. Not shredded, not hidden, just dumped. In the mess was a letter I'd written to Adam after he graduated college. My old recipe notes, and 2 bank statements from when I'd paid off the house, gone. No one else touched that drawer but her. I waited until she left for her book club meeting, which I didn't believe for a second, and searched her room. I found a folder under her bed. Inside, screenshots of my texts, copies of receipts, one of my insurance documents. She had even printed old messages from my phone. She was building something, a file, a case, proofed to make me look dangerous, forgetful, unstable. I didn't panic. I quietly scanned everything into my phone, put it all back the way I found it, and closed the door. That night, I heard them arguing low and sharp through the walls. Rachel said, "If you don't get her under control, I will." Adam didn't answer. Or maybe he did, and I just couldn't bear to hear what he said. The next morning, he walked past me in the kitchen without a word while I was making his coffee. He didn't even look at me. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about saving my house anymore. This was the only way to protect my son before she took him down with her. I called my lawyer and said, "We file tomorrow." Funny thing is, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Because right as I started moving quietly in the background, Rachel played what she thought was her winning card. I was wiping down the kitchen counter when she walked in, one hand resting on her stomach. "I think I'm pregnant," she said. I didn't even turn around. She said it loudly, just enough for Adam to hear. He froze, dropped his keys, and stared at her like she'd just told him she had a terminal illness. I kept wiping the counter. Adam rushed to hug her. "How long have you known?" he asked. She said she'd suspected for a week but wanted to be sure before saying anything. I looked at her. There was no joy in her eyes, just calculation. That night, they ordered takeout and sat at the table celebrating. Rachel made toasts about new beginnings and family unity. She clinked her glass with mine and said, "Grandma's going to be busy." I smiled. But inside, I felt cold inside. She knew exactly what she was doing. A baby didn't just mean excitement or family, it meant control. It meant guilt. And most of all, it meant I couldn't touch her legally without looking like the bad guy. Adam kept saying things like, "It's a miracle, and I've never been this happy." I just nodded. I didn't ask questions. I didn't smile, because something felt off. She didn't act pregnant. She didn't change her eating habits, didn't avoid coffee, didn't slow down or rest. If anything, she became more smug, more demanding. She left prenatal vitamins on the counter like trophies. She told Adam she was too tired for chores. I did them, all of them, again. Still, I kept telling myself, be patient, let her make the mistake. One afternoon, I offered to drive her to the clinic. She smiled and said she already had an appointment with a private doctor, didn't need help. But then later, when Adam asked what time her ultrasound was, she said it had already happened earlier that week. The story was changing. Small details weren't adding up. So I started keeping notes, dates, times, everything. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. I was doing the laundry, reaching into the pocket of her jeans, when I pulled out a crumpled pharmacy receipt. Emergency contraception. Plan B, dated exactly 2 days before her big pregnancy announcement. My heart dropped. I stood there holding that little piece of paper like it was a bomb. It was proof. Real, solid proof. I slipped it into an envelope and sealed it tight. The next morning, she caught me looking at her. She smirked. "Worried about your new title?" she asked. I looked her in the eye. "You sure you're pregnant?" Her smile twitched. "What kind of question is that?" "Just wondering." I walked away. That night, I sat down with Adam. I didn't show him the receipt, not yet. I just asked, "Have you seen any proof?" He tensed immediately. Why would she lie? I didn't answer. I just looked at him. He stood up, walked out, slammed the bedroom door. Rachel had won, again, but not for long. I went to my lawyer the next morning and handed him everything. The photos, the fake pregnancy receipt, the timeline of her behavior. He looked it over and said, "You need to serve her now before she figures out you're 2 steps ahead." I nodded. I knew what I had to do. I left his office and went straight home. Printed 2 copies of the eviction notice. I slid one into the kitchen drawer where Rachel kept her tea. She found it before noon. I was outside, watering my plants, when I heard her scream. It was sharp, like someone had yanked something out of her hands. She stormed out the back door, waving the paper like it was a prank. "What the hell is this?" I turned off the hose. "It's what it looks like." Adam came running out, half awake, shirt wrinkled. "What's going on?" Rachel turned to him, shouting, "Your mom's trying to throw me out. Can you believe this?" Adam looked at the paper, then at me. "What is this?" "It's a formal eviction," I said. "She has 30 days to leave. You're welcome to stay." "She's not." Rachel laughed like she couldn't believe it. "You can't do this." I didn't answer. I just walked inside. Adam followed me. "Mom, please, can we just talk?" "I've tried talking," I said. "You never listened." Rachel barged in behind him. "You're insane. You've been trying to break us since day one." I turned to her, Tom direct. "You manipulated my son. You lied about being pregnant. You tried to get your name on a house you didn't earn, and I have proof of all of it." Her face went pale. "You've been spying on me." "No," I said. "I've been protecting myself." She looked at Adam like she expected him to defend her, but he didn't. He just stood there, stuck between disbelief and fear. The rest of that night was silent. No one spoke. Rachel made dinner, but didn't serve it. Adam didn't eat. I stayed in my room. I heard them arguing, first quiet, then louder. "She cried," he shouted. I didn't want to know what was said. The next morning, she packed, loudly, slamming drawers, throwing clothes into bags. Adam sat on the edge of the bed, holding his head in his hands. I walked past their room and heard her say, "If you stay here, you're dead to me." He didn't respond. She came out with 2 suitcases, stopped in front of me, and said, "You'll regret this." I didn't flinch. "Probably, but not today." She shoved open the door and dragged her bags out, muttering under her breath. Adam followed, slowly, carrying his backpack. I didn't stop him. I wanted to, but I didn't. They got into her car. She drove. He didn't look back. I stood there for 10 minutes, not moving, not blinking. The house was finally quiet, but it didn't feel peaceful. It felt wrong, empty, broken. I went back inside and started cleaning the kitchen, one dish at a time. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't eat, I just sat and waited. For what? I wasn't sure. Then, 1 week later, the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Mom, Adam's voice said quiet, flat, can I come over? I sat down. What happened? She cheated, he said. She's been cheating. I didn't know who else to call. I closed my eyes. Come home. That's all I said. That's all I needed to say. He didn't reply, but I heard an engine start in the background. When Adam arrived, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were bloodshot, his face pale. His clothes were wrinkled, like he'd just grabbed whatever was on the floor. He didn't bring a suitcase, just a duffel bag and his laptop. He stood in the doorway like a stranger, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed back in. I stepped aside without saying a word. He walked in, sat down on the couch, and put his head in his hands. I didn't push him. I just waited. After a few minutes, he finally said it. She was cheating. For months. Maybe longer. His voice cracked on the last word. I sat across from him, calm, steady. How did you find out? He rubbed his face. Her phone. She was in the shower. There were messages, photos. I confronted her. She didn't even deny it. She just said, we were never happy. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. He looked at me like he was searching for something in my expression. Maybe judgment. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe both. But I didn't give him either. I just said, you're here now. That's what matters. He nodded slowly, then whispered, I'm so ashamed, Mom. I shook my head. Don't be. You loved someone who lied to you. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. That's when he cried, quietly, his shoulders shaking while he tried to hold it in. I reached over and held his hand. We didn't talk. We just sat like that for a long time, silent, still, holding grief and something close to peace. That night, he slept in his old room. I heard him tossing and turning. At one point, I stood outside his door, my hand hovering near the knob, but I didn't go in. I let him have that space. In the morning, he made coffee for both of us. It was too strong, but I drank it anyway. He looked across the table and said, she told me you were unstable, that you hated her for no reason, that you were trying to ruin our marriage. I didn't respond. He nodded. I believed her. I let her put me between us. I finally looked up. You didn't let her. She worked at it. She twisted things. She manipulated you. You didn't betray me, Adam. You were just trying to hold everything together. He shook his head. I should have seen it. I stood up and touched his shoulder. You see it now. That's what counts. Around noon, we heard a car door outside. Adam stiffened. I looked through the window. It was a courier. He handed me an envelope with Rachel's name on the corner. I opened it at the table. It was a legal threat. Her lawyer claimed emotional damages, loss of marital housing, and wrongful eviction. Adam read over my shoulder and let out a short, sharp breath. She's unbelievable. I nodded. She's not done fighting. Then neither are we, he said. I didn't smile, but something shifted. He wasn't just broken anymore. He was ready. And so was I. The letter was 2 pages long, full of legal buzzwords and ridiculous claims. According to Rachel's lawyer, I'd caused her psychological harm by creating a hostile environment, and she wanted money for her contributions to the household. Adam stared at the paper, then tossed it on the table. She's actually trying to sue you for making her do laundry. I didn't laugh. This isn't about laundry, I said. It's about leverage. She wants to scare us, make you flinch, make you offer money to make her go away. He shook his head. Not happening. The next morning, I took the letter to my lawyer. He read it once and said, it's weak. If everything you've shown me is real, she doesn't have a leg to stand on. I handed over everything. Photos, receipts, recordings, screenshots of her pretending to be pregnant, and the pharmacy slip. He looked through it all for 10 minutes, then said, we won't need most of this. She's bluffing, but if she escalates, we're ready. I left his office feeling calm, but I knew Rachel well. She never bluffed unless she thought she had something to gain. That night, Adam and I sat down at the dining table and pulled out every folder, every drawer, every dusty box. We made 3 copies of everything. Then we hid them in separate places, just in case. I checked every lock in the house, updated the Wi-Fi passwords, changed the passcode on the security cameras. I wasn't just getting ready for court, I was cleaning house. For real this time. That same week, Rachel's lawyer sent an email. It was a settlement offer. She said she'd leave quietly if we paid her $15,000. for something she called marital relocation hardship. I forwarded it straight to my lawyer. He replied with one line, declined, and don't contact my client again. 2 days later, the emails stopped. The letters stopped. No calls, no court dates, silence. Rachel had folded. She knew she'd lose, and losing publicly, that would ruin whatever image she thought she still had. That night, Adam sat across from me, a pen in his hand, slowly circling a section of her letter. She really thought she could take this house, he said, like she earned any part of it. I didn't say anything. He looked up. You should have kicked her out sooner. This time, I answered. You wouldn't have been ready. You had to see it yourself. He didn't argue. Instead, he asked something that hit me harder than anything Rachel ever said. Can I move back home for good? I froze, not because I didn't want him there, but because I realized this wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about starting over. I looked at him and said, yes, but this time, we do it right. No secrets, no blind spots. He nodded. That night, he brought in his bag from the hallway and set it down in his old room. No hesitation. Just like that, my son was home again. But Rachel wasn't done completely. Not yet. The first thing I did after Adam moved back in was open every single window in the house, not just to air it out, to clear it. Her perfume still lingered in corners, on the couch, even on my pillowcase. It stuck to the quiet places, the places she had no business leaving a mark. I took down every decoration she'd put up, the cheap framed quotes about strength and love, the scented candles I never lit, that ugly painting she said tied the room together. I threw it all out. Adam didn't say anything. He just helped me. The next day, we repainted the hallway, the same hallway she used to strut down barefoot, snapping at me for leaving the light on. We picked a soft gray, something calm, something quiet. As we painted, we didn't talk about her. We didn't have to. Every stroke of the brush was an answer. On day 3, Adam replaced the locks. On day 4, I boxed up the apron she gave me as a birthday gift. The one that said Best House Manager in glitter letters. It had never been a gift. It was a dig, wrapped in a joke. I burned it in the backyard fire pit. That night, we went through the kitchen drawer, her drawer, the one she used to stuff with houseplans, joint account requests, and kitchen renovation ideas. We shredded every single page. Then we turned that drawer into something useful again: bills, grocery lists, receipts, passwords, real-life things, ours. Adam started sleeping better after that. I could hear it, his breathing, deep and slow, like he wasn't guarding himself anymore. He started waking up early, making coffee, eating breakfast. He even asked about family friends we hadn't talked to in years. Little by little, he came back to himself, the real Adam, the one before all the noise. One night, we laughed about the time he tried to make me pancakes in high school and nearly burned down the kitchen. That laugh was heavier than words. It was like we were giving each other permission to heal. But there was still one thing hanging over me. I opened the bottom drawer in my room and pulled out the folder with my most important documents: property deed, will, power of attorney. I stared at them for a long time. Then, I picked up the phone and called my lawyer. I want to update everything, I said. House rights, emergency contact, all of it. He set the appointment for the next day. I brought Adam with me. We sat in the same office where I'd filed the eviction notice. And this time, we rewrote the story together. My lawyer smiled and said, clean break, no contest. She's gone for good. On the drive home, Adam asked, do you think she'll ever come back? I stared out the window. She won't dare. But that night, when I checked my email, I saw a message request I hadn't noticed before. No name, no subject. Just one line inside. You think you've won. But it's not over. I stared at it. My hand hovered over the mouse. Then, I clicked block. It didn't shake me. Not really. It just confirmed what I already knew. Rachel couldn't stand losing. She couldn't accept that no matter how many games she played, how many lies she told, or how close she got to rewriting the story, she'd lost control. For good. I blocked the email, cleared my inbox, and moved on. I didn't even tell Adam. There was nothing he needed to worry about anymore. The battle was over. She wasn't worth another breath in this house. The next morning, I got up early and started rearranging the kitchen, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I put everything back the way it used to be. My shelves, my spices, my labels. No more sticky notes. No more fake smiles. No more quiet little power plays. Adam walked in, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He handed me one without a word. We stood there in the morning light, side by side. No words needed. That silence, it wasn't heavy anymore. It was full. Full of calm. Full of understanding. Full of everything we'd survived together. I stepped out into the garden. My plants had been ignored during all the chaos, but the roots were still strong. I trimmed the dry leaves, watered the soil, and felt my hands steady again. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't felt steady in months. Rachel's presence had hung in the air like a bad smell, clinging to everything. But now, the air felt clean. Finally, Adam came outside and sat on the porch steps, just like he used to when he was a kid, back when he'd sit and watch me take care of the garden, asking me questions about life, questions I didn't always have the answers to. He looked up at me and said, "I didn't think I could come back from all this." I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "That's the thing about being broken. You're never exactly the same. But sometimes, you come back stronger." He gave me a small smile and nodded. "Thanks for not giving up on me." I set down the watering can and said, "I never will. But next time, I won't stay quiet." That evening, we had dinner at the table. Real food, real conversation. No tension. No fake smiles. No forced small talk. Just warmth. Just us. After we ate, I took out my folder, the one with the updated house deed, my new will, the emergency contacts. I filed it all away in the drawer. Not hidden, not locked up out of fear. Just placed where it belonged, like a woman who finally owns not just her house, but her life again. I didn't light a candle. I didn't make a toast. But I felt something settle inside me. Not some big dramatic ending. Not some movie-perfect moment. Just peace. Earned peace. Before I turned off the lights, I walked through every room in the house, slowly, thoughtfully. There were no more ghosts. No more tension hiding in the corners. No more silence screaming back at me. Just me. Just my son. And that was enough. What about you? If you had been in her shoes, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really love hearing your stories. And hey, if this one hit home, check out the other videos too. You won't want to miss them.